As we are dealing about the introduction of the media for industrial fermentation, this module is the third one. So, in the previous module, as we have seen that when we talk about the medium on a laboratory scale as well as the industrial scale, so there is some problem regarding laboratory scale to the pilot scale and subsequently to the industrial scale, just on the base of the medium selection. So, when we say that there will be a suitable medium, so a laboratory medium may not be the ideal when we say that the same medium can be used on a large scale level due to the high viscosity. So, we can say that a laboratory medium may not be ideal in a large fermenter with the low gas transfer platform. So, a medium with a high viscosity will also need a higher power input. For effective stirring, beside meeting that fulfill all the requirement which is needed for the growth and the product formation, but due to the high viscosity that there will be more input of the power. So, the power utilization is the negative point in that medium. So, there are other factors, pH, because the medium is basically that can also have the influence over the pH of the medium, then foam formation, oxidation reduction potential, oxygen solubility, and then other morphological forms of the organism, because some media give some specific morphological form to the organisms. So that's why, so these are the different factors which directly or indirectly effect on the choice of the medium. So it may be necessary to provide in some cases some precursors that is needed for the production of any specific product. Sometimes we have to add metabolic inhibitors in case of citric acid, and in case of any other products, sometimes that some kind of the inhibitors are needed. So the medium will also affect on the recovery and the effluent treatment, because as we know that we have to be very careful about the effluent that is produced through the fermentation process. So we have to treat that before throw into the ecosystem or the nature. So we have to be very careful about that. We have to throw that waste into the environment by treating that, which we call that proper effluent treatment. As we are already discussed about defined and undefined medium. So undefined medium is mostly consist upon complex natural materials that is mostly either produced or achieved or collected from agricultural industry or agricultural side. That's mostly agricultural byproducts, and some are industrial byproducts. As an example, we can see that when we say about agricultural byproducts, they are wheat straw, rice straw, wheat bran, soybean meal. So many meals are available. On the other hand, and when we say about industrial byproduct, as cane industry, sugar cane industry, that is cane molasses or a beet molasses. So those which we called as undefined complex natural materials, that is mostly the byproducts. In other sense, we can say they are the low value added products, which we have to be value added by the fermentation process. So that's why they are having a very low cost as compared to the defined substances, having a pure compounds. So that's why we can use those component part and impurities in the fermentation process. So that can affect on sometimes when we use such products, that can lead to some unpredictable biomass and then other products. So as a consequence of these variations in the composition, when we say that there is not a same composition all the time, then there is a variation in composition. So it is very difficult to detect a minor variation, because as we know that there is a difference in composition, and that different elemental composition from place to place due to the environmental conditions, and sometimes when we use in agriculture byproducts when the nutrients supply to that crop. So when we are talking about that, can also affect the product recovery and effluent treatment process. So the residual component in this case, that can also interfere with the recovery, and ultimately that can affect on the biological oxygen demand of the effluent material that is produced through fermentation process. So thus, through the manufacturers have been reluctant to use defined media just for the cost effect, because due to the more expensive, the industrialists or the producers mostly avoid to use the defined medium. Otherwise, defined medium has so many positive factors. Just there is the cost is the major issue, because that can also help to facilitate the product recovery, etc. So undefined medium has their positive factor just due to their inexpensive supply, but that can hinder on another factors, like as we have already discussed in our previous slide about that they can hinder in the effluent treatment process, product recovery process, etc. So while selecting the medium, ultimately the cost and the requirement of the organism is very critical.